So this is the last part that I think is relevant for this lecture, and it is about the overall discussion. So after you discuss your findings, and usually you finish your findings saying if you support or reject the hypothesis, you discuss. And remember, the discussion is like having a conversation with the literature. You discuss with previous research. So you say like, we in the literature review, we say that the relationship between financial stability and happiness was positive, and we are in line or not, depending on your results, with those assumptions. And then you need to again reflect if you have that in your discussion, if you highlight the purpose of your study and what did you find, and relate that to previous findings. You can say we are in line with them because of this, that's why it's important, this why these results or not results. So you kind of say like we are in line because we've tested that also in the context of Scandinavia after COVID, during a financial turmoil, the results still valid, like previous knowledge is still valid in this context, or if it's not valid, it's not valid. So it depends on your results. You have to discuss. It's a kind of conversation, like that paper said this, and I agree with that paper in this context. So I am kind of reproducing and expanding knowledge, or I am kind of overlapping. I'm saying, no, they were not correct in this context. In this, it's not like they are not correct. It's more like their findings or their contribution doesn't apply in this context because of this. So I hope that's clear. And then sometimes it's in the discussion, sometimes it's in the conclusion, but you, again, very clearly highlight the theoretical implications. So after what we read, what do we know better about theory of happiness and financial stability? So maybe we know that in this, again, post-COVID, you need to kind of problematize in this specific context of this situation. This knowledge also applies, like the assumption that is very linked applies. I don't know, or it doesn't apply. Maybe you need, depending on your findings. But what are the theoretical implications? And then the empirical and practical implications are more like for a practitioner point of view, or like a normal person. Like, you want to be happier, what can you do? Or maybe for universities, what can you do to make your students happier? And the final thing, that's why I say usually this is the conclusion from here below, or maybe from here below, because the last thing is that you highlight your limitations. You can also say that a limitation of this study is that our sample was only 150, or maybe we only included business students, or maybe we only included students from who could speak English because the survey was in English. I don't know, you talk about different limitations that you had. We can also talk about that later. And maybe also that you didn't do like a longitudinal study, you only did one. And link that to future research. So for example, you can say future research idea is to do it longitudinally. So maybe we test before at the beginning of semester, and then we do it again after the semester is done to see if there is any change, if the relationships hold or something. Or why don't we do it in a place where there is richer people and poorer people, and then we'll see if there is differences, or maybe different countries. So the limitations and research opportunities are unlimited. So it's also not the best to to write like 5 pages of this. So you need to choose like 2 or 3 things and discuss them in 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs. Also because otherwise it will be like, it can weaken your study. So you don't need to talk that much. Just clarify that you know the limitations. So that's basically it. I hope that it's a bit clearer. Maybe it's not clear and you need to do the workshop, and then we do the workshop, and hopefully you come back just to the specific points. Maybe you can come back later and say like, I don't remember what I had to check. Then you go to that video, and this, as I said, remember, is to check the model fit, the R-square, and the significance of each variable, 3 things. So then maybe you remember that. So don't worry. I hope the videos are useful, and then I think in the workshop, everything will be clear.